Just wanted to talk about one other thing which I'm sure is on everyone's mind, which is this the coronavirus pandemic. For many people this will be very worrying because particularly with the policy that the laissez-faire policy that our government seems to be adopting, many people are going to get sick, and a certain percentage are going to die, particularly older people. So for many people this will be very worrying. But at a time such as this, but Bhagavan's teachings are the greatest support for us. One teaching which I've always found a great support in times of difficulty is the note that he wrote for his mother in that is when after he left Madurai and came to Tiruvannamalai. At first his family didn't know where he was, but eventually word got back to his family that he was in Tiruvannamalai. But since, if I remember correctly, I think his elder brother had passed away, so his family didn't have much money. But after some time, with the help of some relatives or whatever, Bhagavan's mother was able to come and see him. That was in December 1898. That's just over 2 years after he left Madurai. And seeing him, she, as a mother, she naturally is concerned for her child, and seeing him living an ascetic life, it broke her heart, and so she was pleading with him to come back home to Madurai. She said, you can continue with your meditation or whatever it is you're doing, but please come back and I'll take care of you. He was just sitting there without replying anything. In those days, he very seldom spoke. Some people believed it was because he had a vow of silence, but of course it wasn't so. He just didn't speak. But anyway, some people there who were feeling sorry for his mother, they gave Bhagavan a pencil and paper and asked him to write a message for her. So Bhagavan wrote in Tamil a very, very deeply meaningful message. In the first sentence he said, Avaraba prarabdha prakaram adakanavan angangirandu atavipan. That means, Avaraba prarabdha prakaram literally means, Abba means there in the sense of belonging to them. Abba prarabdha prakaram, according to their prarabdha, according to their destiny. There means that according to the destiny of each person. Then the next word he uses is adakanavan. Adakanavan literally means he who is for that. That is an indirect reference to God, who is the ordainer of the fruits of our past karmas in the form of our present destiny. Adakanavan, angangirandu. Angangu means there, but not in the sense of the other there in the sense of in that place. Angangirandu, being there. The implication is being in the heart of each person. Angangirandu, Artavipan. Artavipan literally means he'll make them dance. In other words, he'll make us act according to our destiny. That doesn't mean all our actions are according to destiny, because if all our actions were according to destiny, we wouldn't be creating fresh karma. But those actions that are necessary in order for us to experience whatever we're destined to experience will be made to do those actions. For example, if it's our destiny to become a doctor or an engineer or something, we have to go through a certain process of education and get certain qualifications. Because it's our destiny to become a doctor, we have to go through all the training, and we'll be driven to do those actions which are necessary for that. So that's the first sentence. In the second sentence he says, Endrum naduvadadu, envichikanum naduvadu. That means what is never to happen will not happen whatever effort is made. That is, supposing I want to become a doctor, I can try as much as I want to become a doctor, I can desire to become a doctor as much as I want, and I can try, But it's not going to happen. Then in the next sentence, he says, Narpadu, entade seinum nilladu. What is to happen will not stop in spite of any amount of obstacle, however much we try to obstruct it. If we're destined to become sick with coronavirus, if we're destined to become seriously sick or to die or whatever, these are not things we can change. Whatever we try, even if we are richest man in the world and have got all the medical facilities at our disposal, if we're destined to die, we're going to die. We cannot live for a moment longer than we are destined to live. Then in the next sentence he says, iduve tinnum, this indeed is certain. So nothing can happen that is not destined to happen, and nothing can, we cannot stop what is destined to happen. This is certain. Ahelin monomai irike nandru. Therefore, monomai irike, we can either take it as meaning silently being or being silent. It can be interpreted in either way, but it amounts to the same thing. Ahelin monomai irike nandru. Being silent is good. That's all he's saying. What does he mean by being silent? Obviously, the actions that the body, mind, speech and body are destined to do, we're going to be made to do. That is Adhikaneman. He who is for that will make us dance accordingly. That means the body, speech and mind will do whatever actions we are destined to do. So we can't just keep quiet doing nothing. If we means the body, speech and mind. But what Bhagavan means by being silent is, so long as we rise as ego, we identify with whatever actions are done by body, speech and mind. Because I am this body, I am this mind, it is I am sitting here, I am talking, I am thinking, I am doing this, I'm whatever. We identify with this bundle of called the five sheaths, the body, life, mind, intellect and will. All these things we identify with them as if they were ourselves. So long as we rise as ego, we experience ourselves as a body and mind. Consequently, we experience ourselves as the doer of these things. So the only way to keep, what Bhagavan means by keeping quiet is don't rise as ego. Just let things be. Why we rise as ego? Because we have likes and dislikes. We want to naturally, because we take this body to be I, we want to live as long as possible. We want to live comfortably. We want to be free of illnesses. And we also have our loved ones, so we want them also to do well in life, to have a nice, comfortable life. And we have so many likes and dislikes. These likes and dislikes lead us to worry about things, to try to avert things which we don't think are good, to achieve things which we think are good. But when all these, whatever we like or dislike, it's not going to change anything. Whatever we try to achieve or whatever we try to avoid, it's not going to change anything, because what is to happen is going to happen. This is this message, because Bhagavan taught, sometimes it said two paths, but it's actually one and the same path. Sometimes Bhagavan said there are two ways: either investigate yourself or leave it to God, surrender yourself completely. Actually, these are, in the advanced stages, these are one and the same thing, because we cannot investigate ourselves without letting go of everything else. In order to hold ourselves alone, we have to let go of everything else. So investigating ourselves is surrendering everything. And we can, by the path of dualistic devotion, so long as we take God to be something other than ourselves and are devoted to Him, praying to Him, worshipping Him, trying to meditate on Him, all these things, by having devotion to God, we can lessen our likes and dislikes, our desires, our attachments and everything to a certain extent. We cannot give them up entirely, because the very nature of ego is to be attached. As Bhagavan said in verse 25 of Ulladu Narpadu, Uru patri undam, Uru patri nikkum, Uru patri undu miha ongam. That is, grasping form, it comes into existence. Grasping form, it stands. Grasping and feeding on form, it flourishes. Such is the nature of this formless phantom ego. So the very nature of ego is to grasp things, to hold on to things. So attachment is our very nature. So we cannot be free of attachment so long as we rise as ego. The only way to be completely free of desires, completely free of all attachments, all likes and dislikes, is to not rise as ego. And since we rise as ego by grasping form, that means grasping things other than ourselves, so long as we are grasping anything other than ourselves, we cannot subside. So we have to let go of everything else. But merely letting go of everything else is not sufficient. Because every night when we fall asleep, we let go of everything and happily fall asleep. So there's something more. The ego subsides into sleep and it pops up again next morning. So in order to eradicate ego, something more than letting go of everything else is necessary. Letting go of everything else is necessary. Something else is also necessary. That is holding on to ourselves. Because the ego, its very nature is to hold something, that is to attend to something, rather than attending to something, we need to hold ourselves. When we as ego turn our attention within, Bhagavan says in that same verse 25 of Ulladu Narpadu, Tedinal otum pidicum. That means if sought, it takes flight. That is, this ego is nothing but a false awareness of ourselves. Now we are aware of ourselves as I am this body. That awareness, I am this body, that is ego. Because ego is a false awareness of ourselves, it can be eradicated only by correct awareness of ourselves, by awareness of ourselves as we actually are. In order to be aware of ourselves as we actually are, we need to stop looking at other things and look at ourselves. Stop attending to anything else, attend to ourselves. Only when we look at ourselves keenly enough will we see what we actually are. When we turn our attention back towards ourselves, we are gradually withdrawing it from everything else. When we manage to turn, metaphorically speaking, when we manage to turn a full 180 degrees away from everything else, back to face ourselves alone, we thereby cease to be aware of anything else, because we've turned 180 degrees away from everything else. We're aware only of ourselves. That is the state of pure awareness. That pure awareness is what destroys, that pure self-awareness is what destroys ego, because that is awareness of ourselves as we actually are. So we can surrender ourselves completely only by self-investigation. The preliminary stages of self-surrender, don't necessarily require self-investigation, but to go deep enough to surrender, we can surrender other things. To surrender ourselves is not possible without self-investigation. So it's actually one and the same path. So what Bhagavan has taught us, this is the path of surrender. And for this path of surrender, what he teaches us through this note that he wrote to his mother is a tremendous support. Because so long as we believe that we can change anything, our mind will be going outwards. If we really understand that nothing is in our hands, we're free to want to change things, we're free to try to change things, we are not free to change anything. So all our wanting to and trying to change things is useless. It's just creating more karma, more fruits for future experience. So being concerned about anything other than ourselves is useless. So if we need, the situation Bhagavan has put us in now, it's actually a very good reminder. Because generally, we all think of death as something, we all know we're going to die someday. But we like to think death is far ahead. When I'm in my 80s or 90s or sometime I'm going to die, but not now. Now I'm too young to die. We continue feeling that until we're in our 80s or 90s probably. But death always seems to be something far away. Our mind has a natural tendency to put death far away. There's a reason for this. Bhagavan once said, even in the midst of a battlefield, when a soldier is seeing his comrades dying around him, he doesn't feel, he feels, I'm going to live at least a little longer. Why? Because the thought of our own death is never entirely real to us. Because we know this body is going to die. But we also, whether we admit it or not, we also know we are something other than this body, because we exist in sleep perfectly happily without this body. We're not aware of the body, but we're aware of our existence at that time. So we all have deep down we have that sense that we are something other than the body. And what we are is immortal. That sense of immortality is in all of us, because we are immortal. So death always seems far away. But because death seems far away, we get caught up in the allurement of this world. We think, if I work hard, I'll get more money, I'll have a happier life. We're always thinking happiness is just around the corner. Things are going to always be a little bit better. We are always thinking. So we create this as if we're going to live forever. We make plans for our retirement as if we're going to live forever. But we are not going to live forever. When something like this happens, this brings the immediacy of death. I mean, in this situation, any of us could get sick. Any of us could die. None of us are immune to it. Generally, it is said younger people are less likely to be seriously ill, to become seriously ill as older people, but none of us are guaranteed. Even if there wasn't this pandemic, the truth is, it's never guaranteed. Next day we could walk out into the road and be hit by a bus and the story is over. But in our mind we put it away. So sometimes when Bhagavan gives us these reminders of how fragile our existence in this body is, how insubstantial our existence in this body is, this is actually a great help for us on this spiritual path. If you want to let go of everything else, why we don't let go of things? Because we think we've got more time ahead. We don't want to leave our friends, our relatives, our possessions, our identity as I am so and so. I've lived such and such a life. I've got such and such a story of my life. We identify with so many things. We're just not yet ready to let go of these things. But when we're faced with death, anyway, when death comes, we let go of all these things, whether we like it or not. We let go of all these things every night when we fall asleep. But we fall asleep happily because we know we're going to wake up the next morning. But death somehow seems more scary for most of us because it's a sleep from which we are not going to wake up, or so it seems, so long as we take this body to behind. So, though this may be a very worrying situation for many people, we can turn this to our advantage on the spiritual path. That's just what I wanted to say.